In Book 9 of Homer's epic poem, The Odyssey, Odysseus and his men are trapped in the lair of a man-eating cyclops named Polyphemus. The clever Odysseus, however, comes up with an escape plan. First, he gets Polyphemus drunk off of wine. As the giant is drinking, he asks Odysseus his name. Never one to be caught off guard, Odysseus replies, "My name is No Man. This is what my father and mother and my friends have always called me." Soon after, the Cyclops falls asleep, and Odysseus seizes his opportunity. He and his men drive a huge, burning stake into Polyphemus' eye, blinding the giant and sending him into a fury. The other Cyclopes gather around his cave, seeking answers.
"What ails you, Polyphemus, that you make such a noise, breaking the stillness of the night and preventing us from being able to sleep?"
On the verge of being overwhelmed by a crowd of murderous giants, Odysseus' plan comes to fruition. Polyphemus cries out,
"No man is killing me by fraud. No man is killing me by force."
Their worries laid to rest by Odysseus' deception, the Cyclopes head home, and Odysseus and his men escape soon after. This famous bit of wordplay, no man as a name versus no man as a concept, is one of the oldest examples we have of a double entendre, a figure of speech where one turn of phrase has two distinct meanings. What's really fun is that you aren't limited to two meanings. With enough work, you can plan out triple or even quadruple entendres. Something I think is really interesting is that double entendre as a phrase is just very outdated, obsolete French that means double meaning. So through the right lens, a double entendre can mean anything that carries a double meaning. A death row meal is both the last meal of someone's life and dinner. The stuffed animal you've had since you were a kid is both a stuffed animal and a vessel for your comfort and memories. We are surrounded by these double meanings. They're steeped into how we navigate the world every day. This, finally, brings me to Frieren. I truthfully don't think I can overstate how spectacular I thought the show was in its first season. The grander ruminations on memory, on strength, on destiny, are equally matched by the quieter, more intimate moments between the characters. Even the moments of levity are perfectly dolloped into the show, and breathe so much life into our traveling companions. But I'm not here to just aimlessly rave about Frieren, though I could. The second half of episode 15, Smells Like Trouble, is my favorite part of the first season. That's a bold statement, as there are plenty of highlights, but the tight, emotionally resonant storytelling that they managed to do in just 12 minutes is such a stunner for me. And it all culminates in the dance that Stark and Fern share during the soiree. This climactic moment has so many different meanings to so many different characters. This is Frieren's quintuple entendre of memory. Let's start with a brief rundown of the plot to make sure we're all on the same page. Fresh out of funds, the party is approached by Lord Orden, the ruler of the fortress town of Vorig. In exchange for a hefty sum, Lord Orden wants Stark to impersonate his dead son and heir, Weird, at an official function. Lord Orden believes that if the town finds out about his heir perishing, instability will take over and the fortress will not hold. The party agrees to the terms, and Stark begins his training in formal etiquette. Partway through, Fern also begins training, as Stark needs accompaniment to the soiree. Finally, the night of the event arrives, and Fern apologizes to Stark as they reminisce on the difficulty of the last few months. Stark offers that they dance, and Fern obliges. The dance between the two is wonderful, a masterclass in nonverbal communication. I love how Fern's face changes from surprise to a smile on this one turn. To wrap up the episode, Lord Orden offers for Stark to stay, essentially seeing if he will replace his son. Stark denies, reflecting on the fact that he needs to return home to Eisen with tales of his adventure, in order for himself to feel satisfied. Finally, Frieren and the party get paid, and Frieren gets the grimoire she was promised. Phew, they fit a lot into 12 minutes, don't they? There's way more to touch on, but I want to turn our attention to that dance between Fern and Stark. Layer by layer, let's construct how each attendant of that soiree would see symbolism in something as seemingly insignificant as a dance between the Lord's son and his date. The first layer concerns our two lovebirds dancing, Fern and Stark. At its most obvious, this dance is a culmination of many previous episodes of relationship building between the two of them. and it would stand to reason that each of them would be remembering those little moments in this more significant one. On top of that, Stark's offer to dance with Fern directly mirrors a scene earlier in the episode, including Fern's line of, "That really doesn't suit you." So between the two of them, there are both short and long-term intersections of memory. Layer 2 has to do with just Stark and his own history. The episode draws special attention to the fact that Stark and Lord Orden share an ancestral village, hence the striking visual resemblance between Stark and Weird. In addition, Stark's observation of Orden's second son, Moot, prompts flashbacks of his own upbringing and neglection. Surely Stark can't help but imagine how his life would have been different if his village hadn't been destroyed when he was young. Something that gains even more significance when you consider that Weird plays a role much more similar to his older brother than himself. You see how complicated the emotions are around this one dance now. God, the show really has some deep through lines. I love it. Layer 3 has to do with Lord Orden, and this is another obvious one. Watching Stark dance in place of Weird would evoke strong memories of his son, of their relationship, of the fight that caused their rift right before Weird's death. Orden must be imagining that Stark actually is his son, and imagining the future that Weird would have had he not perished. Watching the nascent romance between Stark and Fern must be agonizing for Orden, knowing his son will never experience the same. It's devastating, truly. Layer 4 involves the townspeople present at the soiree. Though they do not know that the Weird they see is a facade, they surely are remembering Weird as he was, as he grew into the heir to the town. Stark having a scar must cause them to reflect on the time before Weird was dragged into battle, something that leaves an indelible mark on even the strongest soldiers. Later, when they hear that Weird has died, they will remember Stark on this night, never realizing that their fond, final memory of the heir was just a lie. Our final couple layers involve the party members looking on as Fern and Stark dance. Sign's story largely revolves around a regret he carries in not accompanying his friend on an adventure as kids, and watching Fern and Stark surely gives rise to those same feelings. What symbolizes youth more than the stumbling, often clumsy, but ultimately sweet romance budding between Fern and Stark? His asking Frieren to dance validates these suspicions for me. Though he seems almost uninterested, I have to believe that inside he wants to dance as well, to join in on those feelings. Frieren's denial is fittingly comedic in its ignoring of any ideas of politeness or observance of Sign's feelings. Frieren's layer to our onion of memory is the weakest one in many ways. After all, she isn't even paying attention to the two kids dancing. However, she has her own interaction with memory throughout this episode. It starts when the party is first negotiating with Lord Orden. She states that he is just like his grandfather, indicating that she has dealt with the Ordens before. This is just a little crumb of memory, but one of the final shots is silently powerful in its connection to these same memories. As she picks out her grimoire reward, Frieren looks up at her new party and pauses for a moment. With no words, you know that she is remembering her old party. This through line between Frieren's own past and present is woven throughout the whole story, but these little moments can be some of the most powerful. I admit though that this is a weak connection to the dance, so we will keep it at a quintuple entendre of memory. Better title too. Isn't this show just great? This is some really intense storytelling. Everything is so well thought out. One dance between Fern and Stark can have so many different interpretations to all of the onlookers. And it's not just speculative. Like, this isn't just a high school English essay trying to pull out meaning that isn't there. The show itself really drives home all of these perspectives, and yet it never feels overwhelming. To make such a rich story so easy to ingest is a wonderful achievement. What's even crazier is that there's more to talk about when it comes to this episode. I personally won't get into it, at least not right now, but I love the use of montage for Fern and Stark's training. I think it's so smart, that mirrored scene between Fern and Stark, and relies heavily on subtle facial expressions that are normally hard to portray in 2D animation, but this show pulls off almost effortlessly. Even the whole overarching plot of this half episode is something that is incredibly sad, but approached in such a thoughtful way that encourages reflection inside yourself. It's awesome is what it is. I cannot wait for season 2, even knowing it's so far away. What do you think though? Do you have another favorite moment from the first season? Let me know, and if you enjoyed, liking and subscribing helps a ton. I'm just getting this channel off the ground, and if you want more anime analysis videos, this is the place to get them. I'm SlamAnime, and thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.